providing complete practical guidance regarding the ancient universal knowledge of awakening in the internal worlds, otherwise known as lucid dreaming, astral projection, astral travel, or out of body experiences, OBEs. This teaching was founded upon the tradition established by Samael Aun Weor and is, as such, Gnostic. Gnosis is a Greek word that refers to knowledge that one acquires through one's own experience, as opposed to knowledge we have heard or been told. Gnosis is the name of a timeless and universal teaching that has been present many times and in many places around the world, appearing with different names and faces, but always teaching the exact science to awaken the consciousness and walk on the path toward the self-realization of the being. This course offers essential instructions so that anyone, anywhere, regardless of any distinctions or qualifications, may enter into their direct knowledge of the living realities that surround us, yet remain inaccessible to the physical senses. Although interest in this subject is growing, many people have been frustrated in their attempts to enter into this knowledge. Reading books or attending seminars usually leaves the seeker with more questions, doubts, and contradictions. To those persons, we offer the following quote: "We have been given many clues to consciously travel with the astral body. So thousands of students have learned to travel in their astral body. However, we have seen in practice that those people who cannot quiet the mind, not even for an instant, who are accustomed to hopping from school to school, from lodge to lodge, always inquiring, always preoccupied, are not able to consciously astral travel." Samael Aun Weor. Therefore, to complement the course in Dream Yoga, it is recommended that you learn how to cultivate a quiet mind. Union with divinity. The word yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yug, which means union. So the ancient and universal knowledge of dream yoga teaches us how to unite our consciousness with God through dreams, by awakening our consciousness through the study of our dreams. The first step in dream yoga is to learn how to be here and now, to learn how to live the philosophy of momentariness, because it is not possible to study our dreams if our consciousness is asleep. Our consciousness has to be attentive to study our dreams. To be awake is to be attentive from moment to moment, attentive to oneself. Oneself is not the physical body. Oneself is within the physical body. However, we have to observe our physical bodies. Within the physical body, we have different centers through which what we call a dream is always acting. Our consciousness is like the light of a flashlight. We must learn how to direct the light inwardly to learn about our dreams. What is a dream? A dream is unreality, that which is not real, that which is illusory, that which is not the living moment. It is a projection of one's ego. And when we as consciousness are identified with that which is not the moment, with that which is not the present, then we are dreaming. The reality is God within, the Spirit. We as souls are part of the Spirit. We as souls have to awake to be in contact with the Spirit. When we are in contact with the Spirit, we are awake. When we forget about the Spirit, we are asleep. To remember ourselves is to remember the Spirit, to remember God. What is it to remember? If you remember yesterday, the last week, and so on, is because you have in your memory the different images of your activities or events of the past. But this memory is, of course, just the memory of physical events. We call memory the ensemble of images from the past. By looking inwardly into those images, we say, I remember. If somehow those images are taken away from our memory, then our common identity will be lost immediately from our minds, and we will not know who we are. We say, I am such and such, because we remember because we have memory. When somebody loses his memory, this one does not know who he is. But the memory that we are talking about is just related to our personality. Name, address, age, family, country, etc. All of which are just images of our physical past, which soon will disappear with death. This is just a false identity. The authentic memory that is related to our true identity is that which comes from our true self, our spirit. So we know about our physical identity because the light of our consciousness, similar to a flashlight, is always directed outwardly towards the exterior world, the physical world. We do not know who we are psychologically because our consciousness, similar to a flashlight, is not directed towards the images that come from above, from our inner being, or because our brain does not have a memory, does not have a record of that identity, which is the real self. That is why Descartes wrongly stated, "I think, therefore I am," because we always point toward ourselves as being the mind, ignoring that the mind is ego and that the latter is the opposite of the spirit. I think, therefore I am not. Only when my mind is in silence, I am. The mind is matter. Matter and mind are the same thing. We think that matter is only the physical body, but in reality, the emotional body, which is called astral body, is also matter, and the mind itself is matter. So the matter itself starts from the mind below. The mind always remembers and repeats everything related to that which is matter, because the mind is matter. So within the memory of our mind, we have the images, ego, of the past, and we think we are that because we remember everything related to the mind. However, the images recorded by the astral and mental bodies are just dreams, desires, ego. That is not our true reality. We are not those things, because these are just false psychological aggregates. This is why we are identified with desires. What is a desire? A desire is like a dream because to dream is to project a desire. To desire something is to dream of that something. In other words, when you desire, you are forgetting your true self because your self always lives in the present, in the here and now, never in the future or the past, always here in the present. But we are identified with desires. We say, I wish this or I wish that, because we remember the sensation of the different events of the past. What is a desire? A desire is a result of the memories of the different sensations of the past. Through the five physical senses, we receive different sensations. Visualizations in sight, sound through the ears, different smells through the nose, taste through different flavors in the mouth, through our touch, etc., and different sensations that give us pleasure or displeasure. But most of the desires are the craving for repeating such and such sensations of the past that were pleasing to the consciousness. Any type of sensation that we receive through the senses has to be transformed by our consciousness perfectly. But because the consciousness is always asleep, the consciousness is not remembering its true self. We are just transforming any type of sensation mechanically, according to the ego mind. This is because, as ego mind, we are identified with pleasurable sensations. We have different types of pleasure. Sexual pleasure, the pleasure of accumulation, greed, the pleasure of being someone better than others, pride, the pleasure of showing everyone that we are good or smart, vanity, the pleasure of eating, gluttony, the pleasure of relaxing ourselves and doing nothing, laziness. We feel pleasure when we acquire things that other people have, that we don't have to enjoy those things. We like the sensation of having those things, so we envy others. In synthesis, we have different types of sensations and pleasures. And when our consciousness is acting through the desire of having or experiencing sensations, we are slaves of the past. We are not here in the present. To dream is to live according to a desire. Desires are fulfilled at the expense of the oblivion of the true self. The true self, which is always present when we are conscious at the moment, is cast aside when we dream. A dream is not reality. We have to study the different types of desires or dreams that we have. But for that, we need to separate ourselves from the ego mind and to be here and now. To be here and now is to remember our true selves. To remember our true selves is to reject the remembrance of the ego mind, or that which is desire, because that is not the reality. Awaken your consciousness. Ye drunkards, intoxicated with desires, and weep with remorse, and howl all ye drinkers of wine, indulging in sensation, because of the new wine, of spiritual ecstasy, for it is cut off from your mouth by your own actions. Joel 1:5. Remember that the reality in each one of us is the being, the spirit, our inner God, because we are so identified with the mind, which is the ego, which is desire. We do not know anything about the spirit. We are so identified with matter that we ignore who is our reality, ourself, and we fall into the mistake of calling our inner selves that which is matter, that which is the mind. And we say, I am, and we give the name and surname and the age of the physical body. And we say, I know this and that, with the memory of the mind, without knowing that we are not that. Of course, that which is the mind, that which is the ego, is always acting through the 5 centers of the physical machine. That which is the mind, ego, acts through the intellectual center, and also through the motor center, the emotional center, instinctive center, and sexual center. So we have 5 centers in the physical body. The intellectual center is located in our heads. The motor center is located in our neck, at the end of the spinal column. The emotional center is located in the solar plexus between the heart and the navel. The instinctive center is located in the coccyx, at the bottom of our spinal column. The sexual center is located exactly in the position of our genitals. These 5 centers are synthesized in what we call the 3 brains: the intellectual brain, the emotional brain, and the motor instinctual sexual brain. Those centers are mechanical. They are just cylinders through which the consciousness acts in the physical body. If we are here and now, we are going to use those centers with the consciousness. But if we are not here and now, if we are identified with any type of desire, which is a dream, the ego, which is matter in different densities, is going to act through the 5 centers, and we are going to live as robots. So we have to make an effort to remember ourselves, but to remember our true selves. I repeat, it is to not be identified with the mind, because ourselves, the reality within, the real self, is the spirit, God. When we are exercising the remembering of God, the remembering of ourselves, then we are awake. And then when we do that, we feel that the seat of that consciousness, which is remembering God, is exactly in the pineal gland. The pineal gland is situated in the middle of the brain. From the pineal gland in the middle of the brain, we observe the dreams, the desires, which are the activities of our consciousness, conditioned to the ego mind, that part of us that is not aware, which is not awake. But to observe those dreams, we have to be awake. We have to remember our spirit. So let us remember our spirit. Let us remember God. So when we feel that we are within the body, we have to feel ourselves within the body, consciousness. We have to be here and now. We are within this physical body, and the place that I am is the pineal gland. I feel myself there, and I am observing the different aspects of parts of my body. By accessing the memory, we remember the ego. Instead, we have to use what we call the work memory. To work is to exercise, to use effort to be here and now. When the consciousness is working in the developing of the self and the awakening of itself, that work is work memory. Work memory exercises the consciousness here and now. Work memory is related to the different impressions that are coming from above, impressions that are not coming from the ego, and impressions that are not coming from the mind, but from the being. The knowledge of the being is not related to the knowledge that we receive and store in the mind. The knowledge of the being is related to the memory of the being itself when we receive impressions of the being. We have 2 superior centers that are not related to the mind or the ego: the superior emotional center and the superior intellectual center. These 2 centers are related to our monad. The monad is the reality within. To exercise these 2 centers, we need to remember ourselves. We need to remember God. It is very difficult for us to remember God, to remember the Spirit, because we are forgetting God, that we do not know God within because we are identified with matter, with the mind, with ego. We do not have any memory of God. But we have to work in dream yoga to store, little by little, all the images and impressions of the monad to remember God.
In the beginning, when we start dream yoga during the waking day, we have to vocalize a mantra that will give us the power to concentrate, to remember that which is spirit. Om Tat Sat Om Tat Sat Om
Tat Sat Om. When we pronounce this mantra, we feel ourselves in the pineal gland. And when we feel ourselves in the pineal gland, when vocalizing this mantra, we must remember God. In the beginning, we have to just send that impression, mantra, to our beloved Father who is in heaven, beyond the mind. To remember our true selves, the activity of the mind is an obstacle. So even if the mind is acting and thinking, we do not have to identify with any thought or any image of the mind. Instead, we must always be remembering and remembering God. This is what is called filial love. Filial love is to feel that one is a child of God. But remember that the child of God is the consciousness, the part of the spirit, part of the monad. The ego is a child of the devil. Through self-remembering, we are connected with the monad, with the spirit. But we have to do it every second, every second, every moment, every moment. Otherwise, if we do not do it, we do not remember our God. We do not remember our spirit. And we are going to be asleep because we are so fat in that which we call ego, matter, and mind. It is difficult for us to remember God. That is why we have to perform super efforts. And that is why we have to vocalize Tat, Sat, Om. Then the energy of our being descends from the higher dimensions into our pineal gland, which strengthens our attention and helps us to remember ourselves. If we do that 24 hours a day, then we are awake. So we have to be awakened. And to be awake, then we have to be divided in two. If we are not divided in two, then we are losing part of us. We have to remember ourselves, which is the spirit, and we have to observe ourselves, which is the matter, which is the ego. The consciousness is disgracefully bottled into the ego, the mind. It is divided into two. That part that is not within the ego, which is approximately 3%, has to remember God, has to remember the spirit. At the same time, by remembering God, we observe the head, the heart, and the sex. In the head, we have our thoughts. In the heart, we have our feelings, and in the sex, we have our instincts, motions, customs, and habits. This is how we observe, and thus we know ourselves. We are aware of the different dreams, which are desires. From this point of view, everyone dreams, whether or not he or she is with the eyes open in the physical plane. To be awake is to recognize, from second to second, the reality of ourselves and to observe the three brains. That is to be in the state of self-consciousness. That is the beginning of the awakening and the self-realization of the consciousness, the self-realization of the being. So make the effort in this very moment when you read this explanation about remembering our true selves, which is to remember God, without identifying with that which we think we are. We have to observe that which we think we are. The motor center works 30,000 times faster than the intellectual center. That is why when we are driving a car or you are typing, we realize that the motor center is always acting faster than the intellectual center. If we start analyzing what we are writing or how we are driving, then we are going to start doing it slow because the intellect is very slow. Many people think that the intellect is faster, but no, it is the slowest of all the centers. Faster than the motor center is the emotional center. It is 60,000 times faster than the intellect. Of course, the instinct is even faster. When you are ironing your clothes and you touch the iron and it is hot, immediately you take your hand away without thinking. After that, you analyze it. But if you touch the iron and then you start thinking, oh, I think that this iron is hot. I think if I don't take my hand off, I will be burned. Then you will lose your flesh there. The instinctive center is 90,000 times faster than the intellect. And yet the sexual center is even faster, 120,000 times faster. We are not aware of the activity of these centers. We are more aware of the intellect. And even then, if we are not controlling the intellect with conscious willpower, we are not aware of the desires in that center. We have to control the 5 centers to be awake. As you know, the ego, which is the mind that has the consciousness, the soul, trapped within, is always acting through desires, through dreams, by the center of gravity of each given person. Of course, if the person is a bookworm, this person's center of gravity is likely situated in the intellect. If that one likes to play football and is a star of football, his center of gravity is likely in the motor center. If another one is an actor or actress, their center of gravity is typically the emotional center. And those who like boxing are typically centered in the instinctive center, who are brutal, who are always driven by animal instincts. We have a lot of animal instincts inherited from the animal body, which is the physical body. In our genes, we have the inheritance of our parents, grandparents, etc. So we are accustomed to acting in our way without being aware of different customs, habits, and traditions placed in those centers. The sexual center is the center we have to command, because this center is where we find the most beautiful and powerful energy. We ignore its true function. Since it is very fast, we are immediately a slave of its movement, because the mind of the ego related to this center is related to adultery, fornication, lust, and many types of diseases related to the sexual organs. It is very difficult for us to be aware of the instinctive motor sexual brain. It is easy for us to be aware of the intellectual and emotional brain. To start observing our dreams, we have to observe our intellect and heart. We have to perform super efforts to be aware of the lower brain, the instinctive motor sexual brain, which is very fast. For that, we have to be here and now and to remember God. How is the dreamer going to observe his dreams if he is not awake? How are we going to be aware of that which is happening inside of us when we are asleep? We have to awaken ourselves with super efforts to be present in the moment, continually. The awakening of the consciousness starts here and now. Dream yoga is the union of the consciousness with the spirit to observe the dreams, which are many. You see the people walking in the street? They are dreaming. They do not remember themselves, and they are not aware of themselves. They walk asleep. They work asleep. They do everything asleep. They are sleeping in an internal illusion. A poet said, "Life is a dream." And he was right. For those who are not remembering themselves, life is a dream, a projected dream. We are always projecting dreams. Sometimes we project dreams, and sometimes we live the dreams of others when we identify with the conversation, when we are not aware, when we are not remembering ourselves. Many people have lots of dreams, and they do not utter those dreams. But many people like to talk about their dreams, and sometimes they write those dreams in books, and we read the dreams of other people. So they do business with their dreams. To be awake, we must not identify with the dream of anyone. Are we watching television? Are we watching the projection of a movie that someone invented? Did we enjoy it? We must not identify with it, because if we do, then we will start dreaming another dream. So to be awake is to remember ourselves always. Filial love. To feel that we are children of God. To feel that we are here and now, in this physical body. The chair in which we are sitting is the pineal gland, and from the pineal gland, we are remembering God. For if we are inside but we do not remember God, we are asleep in the chair. Then we are identified with many dreams and we are not awake. Dream yoga requires that we awaken from our illusions and from the dreams we have within. It is the exercising of self-consciousness. For that, we have to divide ourselves in two, remembering ourselves and observing ourselves. At the same time, we have to observe what is around us because As I said, many things happen around us. Objects are around us books, television, conversations, etc. Things around us are objects. We must not identify with objects. We have to realize we are here and now within this body. We have to observe ourselves. And at the same time, we have to know that around us, there are many people, many things trees, cars, books, chairs, etc. That is to be aware of things around us without identifying with them. When we do that, we have to exercise what we call inquisition, to inquire always about things, to always try to see new things. There is always something new happening. If you are exercising your consciousness and observing everything that is around you, you will know what is new in this room. What do you have here in your room that you did not have last week? But if you came in last week and you did not remember yourself, and you were not observing yourself and the things around you, you were asleep. But if you were aware of yourself and the things around you, if you were awake, you would know what is new today. By inquiring, you exercise that ability, that quality of your consciousness with your being, always observing being here and now like the cat, always aware. The cat is always aware. We have to be like that to exercise consciousness. When we go to bed, our consciousness leaves the body because it is tired and it needs to rest. If we are in the body when we rest, then we will have insomnia. But if we leave the body, it will rest, it will snore. Outside of the body, we are going to do the same things that we do here in the physical body. We go to work, we go shopping, we watch TV. The consciousness will be the same outside of the body. If we are aware of our dreams while we are in the physical body, then we will be aware of our dreams while we are out of the body. We will be aware of the same dreams because they are the same, whether in the body or outside of the body. Sometimes you can control your dreams and your desires within the body because you are remembering yourself. But outside the body, something happens. Suddenly, all the desires or dreams are becoming a reality for you. In the physical plane, you desire to eat a nice meal, but you are on a diet. You are controlling that desire to eat. Somehow, your vanity is controlling your gluttony. Outside of your body, your gluttony does not care about your vanity. And then you dream you are eating and indulging in a lot of things. Then that desire is fulfilled outside of your body. That part, which is your consciousness, is not controlling it. We do things outside of the body that we would not do in the physical body for all the money of the earth. This is how people who are outside of the body are adulterous, even though they are not physically adulterous. They may not be stealing while in the body, but are thieves outside the body. They may not be killers, but kill outside the body. For example, perhaps we are angry with another person who is hurting our pride. The norms of society say that if we kill the physical body of the other, we go to jail. So we control our anger, our hatred, but our desire to hurt or kill that person because of pride and self-love is within us. So we leave the body, and in the astral plane, which is the dimension of dreams, we kill the other. We dream that we kill the other person. There are 5 types of dreams related to the 5 centers. The intellectual person will have dreams with the intellectual center, dreaming of ideas, debates, conflicting concepts, plans, projects, etc. Most people are identified with customs and habits related to the motor center. While dreaming, they always repeat what they do in the physical plane. People have a dream of being rich, so they thirst for money because they are greedy, and thus they become workaholics. They may have 2 jobs. During the night, since they are so identified with that habit of working, they go to bed to rest physically, and they go out of their physical body, and they keep working in limbo, in the astral plane, the world of dreams. The same desire for working and making money is making them work there too. This is how, due to habits and customs, we always repeat what we do in the physical plane. These dreams are related to the motor center. Dreams related to the emotional center are dreams of fear, hatred, and different types of emotions. Many dreams are related to the instinctive center. We have to study our instincts. And of course, we have sexual dreams. We must know ourselves through our dreams. This is how we know ourselves. Know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and the gods. Sometimes when we are out of the body, unusual things happen because in the astral plane, the fifth dimension, eternity, we always find the same things we have here in the physical world. Before crystallizing here, everything was in the mind, mental plane, then in the astral plane, and then the physical plane. An engineer begins planning something in his mind. Then he places it in a blueprint, and then it all becomes concrete when what he thought up is being built. So everything we find here, like chairs and a house, everything was in the mind of its creator first. So it is obvious that in the astral plane, we have the same things that we have here. There we find all the images, all the forms of things before they crystallized in the physical plane. That is why we are not aware when we are out of the body, because we see the same clouds, the same trees, the same people, the same animals. Every living creature leaves the body when they sleep. Everything exists exactly in the physical plane as it does in the astral plane. In each world, there are different laws. Here, physically, we have the law of gravity. In the astral plane, it does not exist. If you jump, you float. If you want to fly, you fly. That is why sometimes we dream that we are flying. Time and space do not exist in the fifth dimension. Many phenomena related to the astral plane are strange, symbols and forms that take other shapes suddenly. That is why we have dreams that are not related to the physical plane. For example, flying is not related to the physical plane, but we are always asleep. We are not remembering ourselves, and we are not using the inquiring activity of the consciousness. If we are using that, we will say in that moment, "Why am I flying? I'm not a bird. If I am flying, I'm out of my body." So, inquiring is how you awaken in the astral plane, and then by utilizing the inquiring activity of the consciousness, you realize you are out of the body and that you are dreaming. Behold a lion entering into this room. Why is this lion entering into my room? Why am I seeing this crocodile in front of me? Or this elephant, or these very weird things? Inquire about that, and then you will awaken in that moment. But you have to do that in the physical plane, because the consciousness that is there in the astral plane is the same as the one in the physical plane. But the laws of this physical plane are different. If we start by analyzing that the law of gravity is related to the physical plane and not the astral plane, then we start utilizing the part of the consciousness that we do not commonly utilize, because we are always asleep and identified with dreams. We have a lot of dreams, unfortunately, but we have to start observing them. And when we start doing that in the physical plane, we do the same thing in the astral plane. Do not expect to wake in the astral plane if you do not awaken in the physical plane first. You are the same one here, or outside of your body, because you are not the body. You are the consciousness, and the reality of that consciousness is the spirit, God within. Remember always God, remember always spirit, and observe your dreams, and your consciousness will awaken. We also have to observe the location, the place in which we are. We have to always be aware that we are children of God by remembering God, by remembering ourselves. When we remember ourselves, we have to observe ourselves, the three brains, the activity of the mind in the body. And we have to observe the things around us by inquiring always about them, without forgetting ourselves, without identifying with anything. If we are inquiring and observing, and then we identify with something, we forget ourselves, and then we dream again. So we have to observe without identifying with it to exercise our consciousness. We have to perform super efforts. If we do not act with super efforts to remember ourselves, we will fall into identification. For instance, perhaps you see a building on fire. If you remember yourself and the things around you, you say, "If I approach it, maybe something will fall on me." You are aware and will not approach. If you identify with your curiosity, or if you feel like a hero and you want to help, then maybe you will lose your life because you are not protected. You are not a firefighter. Sometimes people lose their lives because they are curious. We must not identify with things. If something is happening, look, but remember yourself and ask yourself if you can help. If not, then you should leave. So the location, the place we are in from moment to moment, has to be placed in our consciousness. In which place are we? At this moment, for instance, if we exercise the location or place, we see that you are learning gnosis on the internet through your computer. Your computer is in your home or office. Your home or office is in your city. Your city is in that district of your country, and your country is your country is in the continent of your continent is on the earth. You have to expand your consciousness. The planet Earth is in the solar system. The solar system is in the galaxy. Then there is the infinite. Expand the consciousness, be here and now. But are we in the astral plane or the physical plane? Which dimension are we in now? Sometimes you can swear you are in the physical plane, and then you wake up and you realize it was a dream. In that very moment, you were identified with the dream, and so you did not know you were dreaming. Maybe you are now physically sleeping on your bed, and you are dreaming that you are reading this lecture on the screen of your computer. You came out of your physical body into the astral plane, but you don't remember that you left your body on the bed because you were not aware of it. Are you sure you are in the physical plane right now? You have to exercise practice in order to awaken. If it is the physical plane, there is no law of gravity. You can jump with the intention of floating. So you are in the physical plane. Are you sure you are? If you do not want to jump, then pull your finger. Try to stretch your finger because the astral body is elastic. I remember one time when I was doing this in the astral plane, and I pulled it and I said, I am in the astral plane. We are in the astral plane. And everyone said, yes, we are in the astral plane. But they were answering mechanically. And I remember one man that was there, and I said, okay, are you sure you are in the astral plane? And he said, yes, I am sure we are. I told him, okay, come with me. You want to go to the planet Mars? So I took his hand and I jumped in the air. And when we were in the air, he started to scream, oh, I am going to die. I am in the air. Release me. He was sleeping. His consciousness was not awakened. He was just answering mechanically. So in order to be awake, we have to exercise the practice. We have to exercise it, not any other person. If you want to awaken, you have to awaken. If I'm going to awaken, that does not mean that you are going to awaken. So you have to exercise that always. If you do this exercise second to second, if you ask yourself if you are in the physical plane or astral plane, jump with the intention of floating or stretching your finger. Then you are going to awaken. Then you are going to know for sure that the consciousness which is awakening in that very moment is within the physical body or out of the physical body. This is how we awaken. But we must always remember here and now. If we do that exercise in the physical plane, we will repeat it in the astral plane, or mental plane, or any plane. The consciousness will always be the same consciousness whether it is within the body or out of the body. Now we are going to learn about two different types of experiences that we have out of the body that are not related to the 5 inferior types of dreams. They are related to the 2 superior centers, superior emotional center and superior intellectual center. Both are connected with the monad. When the monad realizes that his soul wants to awaken and to be reunited, to enact the yoga, union with it, then it starts teaching, sending impressions and images from above to below. This will not be images from the ego, projected by the ego, projected by ourselves. No, it will be messages from above, and these will be visions, a certain type of dream that is not a dream, but a type of teaching from our monad, who wants to help us. There is a language that we have to learn, and it is the language of dreams. We can say it is the language of symbols, symbols that we have to analyze and that we have to comprehend, related to the law of mathematics, the law of numbers, the law of philosophical symbols, etc. This language is the wisdom of the Kabbalah. To comprehend this language is to know what type of knowledge my inner being, my monad, is giving me to perfect myself, to awaken myself. What do I need? What am I lacking? What do I have to release? I have to know myself. My monad knows what I need and will teach me through visions. By exercising and memorizing what I am receiving from my being into these two superior centers, we have to understand that these two types of experiences have a very different taste, something very rare, something that is not normal. If you are utilizing here in the physical plane the inquiring activity, then you inquire about the message you are receiving. Sometimes you do it at the very moment you are having that experience in the astral plane. If you are very deep in your consciousness, you can say that it is like you are in a state of coma. Then it is very difficult to remember when you return to the physical body. This is how we start remembering our dreams while remembering those types of visions. They are images, impressions that the monad is sending to our consciousness in order to awaken us, in order to teach us. That is work memory. That is the memory of ourselves. Then we start a deep study of ourselves. The angels, archangels, cherubims, seraphims, etc., that are in higher worlds are awakened and are always trying to help us. They always help us through the consciousness that is awake. The ray of creation is connected to all beings. We always find those beings whom we call masters in different religions, angels, or gods, who are beings who are awake in the higher planes and who want to help us. And this is how we are going to remember and understand the types of visions they are going to give us by exercising dream yoga. It is good to have a book to take note of your dreams. When you wake in the morning, write them down. It is good as well to have a recording machine in order to record your dreams that you are remembering when you wake up during the night, in order not to lose your relaxation. Sometimes when you are waking in the middle of the night, there is a message that your being is giving you, a message through your superior centers, and you say, "Oh, I will record it in the morning." Then you go to sleep, and then you forget when you wake in the morning. We should not trust our egoic memory. The ego is always the memory of false dreams, the memory of desires. The work memory, conscious work, is here and now. It is different. It is not ego. It is not gluttony, pride, vanity, laziness, etc. It is the memory of God within. This is how we start remembering in God, awakening in God, and discovering our own reality. And then we will have a lot of material in order to do that practice, which is for the annihilation of ego. We have to comprehend. To comprehend the ego is to comprehend dreams, whether they are here or outside the body. Each ego is a particular individual desire, a particular individual dream, which is an illusion. It is not reality. Each ego is just an illusion. The reality is not the mind, it is not the ego. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch ourselves carefully and be sober without identification. 1 Thessalonians 5.